And good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Mel Sanders Friends here on the Central Valley Talk. My name is Mel Sanders, along with Cato, and we're here today to just kind of have a little conversation with the folks in our community about some things that, some of the things we touched on the last time we were here regarding education and particularly special ed. And then we're going to talk about a few other things afterwards. Paula's not with us tonight. She has another engagement. You know, when you get to be an important board member in a small community, everybody pulls on your coattails and wants you to participate in something that they're doing. So hopefully we'll hear next week from her what her Thursday night was like the previous week. But going back to what we had a conversation about last week, last time we were here, Mr. Cato, we talked about special ed. And some of the problems in terms of communication with people who are not familiar with the school system and how that function works. And you had personal knowledge of how that process works because you had a young man that was a part of that. And just kind of quickly go back over some of the things that we talked about in terms of some of the challenges you had when you first got involved with the system.
Well, first, my son is considered special ed. Mm-hmm. He has what's called Fragile X. Fragile X is the X chromosome, and that they kind of lump everything with special ed up under autism, which I don't really like because you have the extreme from one edge to the other as far as what is autism and how it falls up under that category. But as I say, he does have a learning disability. He is teachable, learnable. As a matter of fact, they call him a tweener, a tweener, like in between, a tweener, because he's teachable, he's learnable, he's mild-mannered. He doesn't, become defiant or angry or violent or anything that they have with a lot of special ed kids. That just once again falls up under autism. So, you have that spectrum of it to where you have to deal with it. And a lot of times that dictates attitude from administration who you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. Because depending on what that, say, child, in most cases they can be an adult, but because whatever issues they have is going to be with them for the rest of their life. But they, depending on what the history is, dictates a lot of what they may or may not recommend. Mm-hmm. My biggest thing that I found is that administration is scared to identify your child's needs. They want you to tell them what he needs as the parent. Now, it's one thing to ask me, what do I want as a parent for my child? Mm-hmm. It's another for me to tell you what he needs educational-wise in whatever setting that he's in.
Why do you think they're so reluctant to do the diagnostic part and tell you what they need as opposed to them asking you?
So they're not wrong. They don't want to be wrong. They don't want to tell you the wrong thing. They don't want to.
Yeah, but they're the professionals.
And that's why they want to be able to be right all the time. Okay. They're so scared that first what they'll do is they'll tell you, "What do you want, Mr. Sanders?" Mm-hmm. And then once they hear what you want, then they kind of know which way to guide you, as long as it really fits with what they wanted anyway.
Oh, so it's really their plan, but they want you to bring it back to them so they can say it was your plan.
They want to include you.
Or partners.
Right. They want to include you, and they want to, for one, they want to make you feel that you're included in that meeting that you're having. But it still doesn't come off that way, especially when you know your rights. Mm-hmm. See, that's the biggest problem is most parents with a special ed child does not know their rights. They don't know that when they go into a meeting, they're really in control. It's their child, regardless child. It's going to always be the child, no matter what age. Mm-hmm. So their child, who they're dealing with, you're in the meeting about, they're the ones that dictate what shall, what can, what they want, what they don't want. That's the parent.
So is that information written someplace?
It's law.
So explain, how do you get to that if you're not particularly paying attention to laws and regulations?
You
how
wouldn't know that
would
unless you're told, and they're not going to tell you.
So how were you able to get that information?
They slipped
You paid
up.
somebody.
No, because I'm poor. I don't have no money to pay nobody. No, they slipped up, and two, as a friend of mine says, I might have been born at night, but I wasn't born last night.
Okay.
So once it didn't take but really a minute to hear what they were saying to know there's a catch here. They're not telling me what the catch is, but there's clearly a catch here that they're not in charge. I'm in charge. And then once I found out that there is a law that says that they have to do what I say regarding my child, not them tell me where he needs to go, what classroom, what school. It's up to me, or what he's being taught. It's up to me as the parent, and they have to do that.
So wait a minute, say that again slowly, because you said there's a difference between what classroom, what time they go in the classroom, that kind of thing,
right,
as opposed to what you want the outcome to be. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
A lot of times they'll guide you somewhere where your child shouldn't be, where he's in a setting that is inappropriate for his behavior or his learning capabilities. It's just putting him somewhere. It's really what they're about. Is putting him somewhere. It's really not about putting him in the best place for him, unless you are one of those parents that speak up and are vocal and you're paying attention. Their job is, because once they get through with your child, there's another one coming. So their job is just to get him somewhere. It's not about, we don't want him going over to here because that's not the best setting for him. You will never hear that. They will say, what do you want? Now, here's some options. These are some places the settings that we have in mind. Well, that in mind is because, for one, they have space. Well, as a parent of a special ed child, I could care less about space on what you're telling me. I don't want 60 kids in a classroom, but also I don't want my son in a setting where everybody else is an invalid. They don't know their surroundings. They're sitting there. I hate to be blunt, but they're sitting there and they're drooling on each other or on themselves. They can't write. Of course, they can't read. They're immobile. I mean, they're in that wheelchair, and that's it. So why would I put my son in that setting where he's able to function, and you're able to talk to him and tell him what you want him to do, and he can follow instructions? That's my job as a parent to do that. But if I don't know it, how can I do it?
Folks, we're talking to one of our co-hosts, Mr. Cato, regarding special ed. He has some extraordinary knowledge in how the process works, gleaned from having a son that was in the education system. And he's sharing some of that with us tonight, because a lot of people have no idea, who have kids with special needs, and have no idea how it works and what their rights are.
Right.
And so I just wanted to interject that, go back to what you were saying there.
It just comes down to that if you're not aware of something, you don't know the rules, then how do you play the game? And they're not going to tell you, not unless you're really observant or you've been informed prior to going into a meeting. Most people parents go into a meeting waiting to be told what is going to happen to their child. And so you just follow instructions. Oh, well, this must be right because they're the expert. But they're so leery about, for one, telling you what that child needs, as opposed to you telling them first what you want your child, as far as being taught. That's one of the first things. Well, what do you want, Mr. Cato, for your son? Well, for one, life skills is for me at that time, but that was his biggest thing. Learning how to cross the street and learning how to read the street signs from yellow to green to red. Okay, or going into the store and handling money, because when he got to that age, once he gets past 21, those programs are still there for anybody. So you have to just
Slow
demand
down.
it.
Back up again. So you're saying after the age of high school, for those young people who need that special help, it goes beyond.
Yes, it does.
Up to what age?
I can't say that. I don't know if there's a cutoff because it's special. It falls up under special needs. There's programs now. The programs prior to that would be the elementary school or preschool. Like my son started from daycare, and they were taken from daycare and went to a program, and then that was run by the city. And so from the city, that's their responsibility. And then once he got into junior high and then high school, that all those programs continued because there was programs at the sites he was at the high school or the junior high. And then from there, you take it to there's outside programs, and there's a ton of them. But you have to do your research and find out if that's it, even if that program is right for your child. But once again, child can be an 80-year-old man, as long as his parents, as long as his parents are alive, he's still a child. Once his parents is gone, really, he's no longer a child. So I know I've seen them in their 50s. I know I have. And they do what they can for them. But it's just mostly the biggest problem is that the parents aren't informed. They don't know what their rights are. If you tell them, I want my son to go to Madeira, well, the law says that the child's supposed to go where you say, under the setting that you're requiring, not so that you just stick him in a
classroom with some other students that
and close the door.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
which is in the past. That's what they did with special ed.
So if you were giving advice to a parent in terms of first steps, and they had a child that was in need of these kind of services, where would they start in your recommendation? Where would you suggest they start?
There are advocates out there for, let me digress. I prefer special needs because that's what to me that sums it up. And each need is different for each person. And as a parent, I keep saying child because that is my child, and like I said, he will always be my child. So no matter what age he gets. But you have to. If you don't know, once again, if you don't know, you can't. You don't know what your rights are. You don't know what position you're in to dictate to them. This is what I want, and then they have to follow up because that's being put down on paper, and they have to sign off on it. You have to sign off on it as a parent.
So there are advocates that can help parents.
They can educate
walk
you
through this process,
right, and they can go in with. You can have whoever you want in that meeting.
Okay.
But once again, and I understand some of the problems that the parents, it's like anything else, just like say regular students, they're having a working 2 jobs or 3 jobs, so they don't have time to just keep running down there. And yeah, it's a little different when it's a special needs child, but it's still the same. That parent still has other obligations outside of the house that he has to feed those kids, or they have to feed the kids' mom and dad, or just getting mom and dad there in a meeting. I mean, but that's just education all the way across the board. It doesn't mean special ed is any different.
So let me ask, in terms of funding for special needs students, is it a different rate for the school district to take in? In other words, a regular student may get $5,000. What would a special needs student bring to the district? And I ask that because it seems like if there are special need students, they kind of put them all together. In a county, they may take 6 or 7 schools and just hire one person who has the background for that kind of education, and it doesn't fall on that particular school district. It falls to maybe the county or something.
Well, as far as because things have changed since my son was in the educational system, but all schools get special ed money. So That's not a. I mean, money at that point shouldn't be an issue. Now, like everything else, the administration gets their hands into it, and then they want to dictate the rules of how that money is spent on AIDS or whatever. Such as, I remember back at the time when his biggest problem is communication. Him talking to you, not you talking to him. It's just him verbally being able to communicate back with you. That's his biggest problem. And so I think at the time they had it where he would only meet with a specialist once a week. Well, once
to help
a week,
him improve his communication.
Right. And you have to understand that that wasn't, like you were saying, that wasn't just to that person was assigned to that one school. They could have had 4 different school sites that they were in charge of. That's just allocating that money the way they saw fit. So, and you have no control over that. All you can do is request that, yes, I want him to go in and be assisted by or help with this special ed teacher that works with communication. Then that's your request. But you can't go in and tell him, oh, he's got to meet with that person every day. No, because the administration gets involved. When money gets involved.
That's what I was going to just say. Well, it's about the dollars.
It is.
And it seems to me that if the dollars follow the student, why would the district, well, I guess I can understand to a degree, why would a school district partner with other schools or the county office if the dollars follow the student for that particular need? But I guess when you talk about the cost of a teacher or an instructor for that class, then it's going to take more than just what's in the budget for a regular teacher, because these are specialists.
These are specialists. So once again, a specialist demands more money. I mean, you can justify it if you want, that this is what it costs for us to run this program to help these students. Okay, but I'm at odds with educational administrators, I guess is the way to put it, because to me it's not the best interest of the students. You see it, and we talked about it before. You have a regular student where the teacher has to pay out of her own pocket. What? And you getting the money? Now, with the exclusion of that teacher wasting her funds and she's not following protocol as far as how that student gets their money, that you're regulating that they bring that booklet or those pencils or whatever it is, so that each week you're not issuing out new papers or new booklets. I understand that. You don't want to waste. But that's not, I don't believe that is the issue. And it still follows into special ed.
Okay, so I want to follow up on that part of the conversation, but let's conclude this part about special ed and special education and how parents can link up with those advocates that can help them walk through this process. Because I think that would be, off the top of your head, do you know of any agencies that actually work with, is it CV? What?
RC.
What was that again?
CVRC.
Are they part of an advocacy?
I would say it's more of an agency as far as what I feel. They've got their hands in so much stuff, and then I mean they have, just like anything. We had I guess if you call them a caseworker from them, and not that we were lucky, but we were good because we had one who really cared, and when there was issues that popped up, she took care of them. Now, everybody doesn't get that. But then, too, the parents, when you have parents who know what they have to do because of your request, or if you want to say demand, then that goes a long ways, where just other than you just being dragged along and saying, fed spoon saying, here, take this, take that, let's put him over here, let's put him in that. That's a lot of times what happens is, a lot of it is that's what goes on is, we'll send him over here. We'll send him over here. Well, the parent don't have time to go to 6 or 7 different schools to see if that setting is good for their child.
Mm-hmm.
So, but once again, if you don't know, and we've had this was after. I mean, this was beyond me, but we've had some workers say no, he doesn't belong over here, or no, you don't. That's not what you should request. They're going to tell you to do this, and you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we were blessed as far as that. And every meeting I was there. Every meeting his mom was there.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself was rare, because you might get one or the other if you got either.
Uh-huh.
And I understand that. And most parents are intimidated by going into a meeting. And once again, just like anything with their boss, you're in control.
Mm-hmm.
You called a meeting. Yes, it's our meeting for our child, but it's still, I'm coming to you. You're not coming to me. You're not coming to my house where I feel a little more comfortable. We're down here at your school or your setting, and
does it have to be that way?
I don't know of it ever being done any other way.
I know it's convenient for the staff, teaching staff, or that school district or whatever, but I don't know.
I have never, on all of the years, had them say we can come to your house. Never. It's always, we're going to have a meeting at this time. Can you make it?
Well, that's very interesting. I think you shared some things, expounded on them a little bit more than you did last time we had a chance to talk. But hopefully it helps someone to understand better that there are agencies or folks that can advocate on the behalf of parents who have children that have special needs.
Right.
But you did mention something that I wanted to follow back up on, and that had to do with you're not too keen on administrators on the regular school system of their function.
No.
Speak about that a little bit. Maybe we can have a little dialogue about that, because we may share some of the same concerns about it.
Well, I know that we've talked in the past regarding whenever other props came up regarding giving the state more education money, and I've said it for the last years.
Longer than that.
Yeah,
I can remember you way back when saying you're not in favor of increasing your taxes for schools until.
I'm not giving you one more penny. Don't come to me with the schools need more money. No, you don't. You have enough money to run the whole school district of California. You have the money. Yet, once again, how is it that this teacher is going to tell me, with the exclusion, that this teacher is mishandling the funds right? She does. But
they have middlemen to check that. So I don't know how that can happen, because usually when what has happened that I've noticed in the past years when I was on the school board, at the beginning of the year, the teachers would all, from their principals, get or from the finance people, get a list saying, what do you need for your class for this year? And then they write everything down and they submit it back to the business office, and then they go from there. And I've never seen a year where teachers have gotten everything that they've requested. And I've always wondered about that, because when you're sitting on the board and you're looking at the budgets and you understand what budgets are for and how they're supposed to be utilized, why did they not get everything they needed? Why is the district carrying over money in categories that should have been pushed toward the students to help the teachers to help the students?
See, let me ask you that to answer your own question. Why do you think that's the case? That if the money is allocated, why aren't you getting it? So I guess I'll put it back on you. I want to hear what your answer is.
Well, it's a real simple answer for me. When you have ignorant board members, and by ignorant, I'm not trying to slander them, but they just don't know and don't understand the budgetary process of what categorical funds are for, what you can spend them, what you can use them for, how you can mix and match them, then you have the superintendents and business managers basically running multi-million-dollar budgets on their own with no input from the community, if you will, because the people who serve on those boards are supposed to represent communities.
Well, I understand And I'm like you, I can throw that out there too. As a former board member, school board member myself, I I don't put that off on the school board. I
Why
put
not?
because
The buck stops there.
overall,
No dollars
yes,
can move without coming to an
right,
agenda that says, let's move this money here.
right.
Recommendation by the superintendent.
But most boards, what will happen is they leave that up to the principal.
No. To the superintendent. Principals work for superintendent.
Well, okay.
And the superintendent works for the board. So let's get the pecking order right so we know who to beat up on.
Well, now not every school board. I mean, every school has a superintendent.
Oh yeah.
No, well you got to go back further. For you got that big old word, superintendent. You had principal.
Well, yeah, but there's always been, but over the last 40 years, there's been superintendents.
No, I'm not saying there. No, but that
And
title,
some of them wear two hats.
But
Some of them wear / principal.
Well,
when you're in smaller districts.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That wasn't just that you automatically had both. That principal was a superintendent.
Well, sometimes they did. When you have
Especially
a small,
the smaller school districts.
smaller
Right.
school districts, you can understand that.
Right.
I mean,
Well, but see, for me, is that's on principal's superintendent. If you want to say superintendent, fine. If that's on that
that's
superintendent.
There's no choice. You don't have a choice. It's the
Well,
guy that works for the board. Principals
right.
do not work for boards.
Okay, the janitor then if that's his duties to handle the budget the way that the board is set up, then okay, that's on him. But that still shouldn't trickle down to the teacher. We both personally know of a ex-teacher that came out of her pocket. And we're not saying no names, but we both know of this person. Mm-hmm. And she personally told us, yes, I had to spend my own personal money. Mm-hmm. And that's one reason why she got out of teaching.
Yeah. And didn't get reimbursed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the crazy part. You're going on TV touting that you don't have the funds allocated to your classroom. Now, if the superintendent wanted to come back and say it's because they didn't file their budget with us before the school year, that's on the teacher. Or they mismanaged their budget so that they got the supplies they requested, it's just they squandered them, whatever. That's still not on that teacher, other than to that point. That's the teacher then. That's the teacher's fault. That's not the administration's fault.
But how many teachers are going to do that?
No,
in most cases,
right. You're not going to have that.
Teachers are going to they're going to ask for more than they may need,
right,
just to make sure they get what they need.
So that shouldn't be the issue. But why is it then? If it's not the teacher, it's the administration. It's going to be one of the two.
Yeah,
money
mostly it's administration, in my view, and it's because if you do not understand budgeting of a school district, you can get hoodwinked very easy. And teachers are the most gullible. I'm not being rude, but their time is spent teaching kids. Yeah. They're not spending time learning what these categorical funds are for. They're simply told by their superintendent, their principal rather, and their lead department head what they can ask for and how the monies can be used. They don't study that. Very few of them. There's a few that do understand after they've been there for several years, and most of them are, getting close to the time to retire than they are to, there's more days behind them than there is in front of them. So they're not really interested in, and they're interested, but they're not going to work that hard to change what has been all along. So I think that's the primary reason why they get shortchanged, is because they don't understand how to read that budget and to maximize it for the classroom.
The teacher. I don't think I want to put that on the teacher.
Well, I'm just saying
that's pure.
Exact. I agree.
That's administration.
That's an administrative
to a certain degree
to do that.
Right.
But I'm just saying the reason administrations can get away with that is because teachers don't know that. They are teaching Johnny how to read and teaching them life skills and those kind of things. That's not their primary focus, is to be on the budget. They expect for that principal or their department head to make sure that they got their backs. But in most cases, their hands are tied because of a superintendent who may have another motive and who is not totally in tune with the classroom. So I think that's kind of where, we really got to look at who's really guiding the ship. And when it comes to board members, they have an obligation and a responsibility to know how to read a budget and understand what is being proposed to them and why. Why are we pulling it from this category when we can take it from this category?
Okay, when this stuff was really going on, and I know it's still going on today, but when it was at its height, especially with Fresno Unified and teachers squawking that they're coming out of their pocket buying school supplies, if that besides the superintendent, going beyond the department head, if that teacher knows how to lay out a budget for her classroom and says, I have this many students and this is segments that we're teaching throughout the whole year, so I need 4 different books, or I need so many pencils or whatever they're using, so much paper, then that doesn't take rocket scientists to figure that out. So here's my budget for my classroom.
Right.
Now,
most of them do that, by the way.
Right. And other than being given for some crazy reason another 20 students that you weren't aware that you will be getting,
that happens too.
Short of that, well, that's not the teacher's fault.
No.
So the administration should be kicking in because now the student is going to need the books and papers and pens. So why not allocate? That was, and that can be coming out of the whatever, if it's out of the general fund or whatever category that falls up under, that would still be there for those circumstances. So it's not that, well, we're stuck and you got to go buy your own. There shouldn't be any reason at all that other than mismanagement on that teacher's part to where that teacher should be coming out of their pocket.
See, that's why the leadership of a district is so vitally important. And I know of situations where teachers and other staff people, maybe in the classified area too, were punished for coming back to request more things that they thought they needed. And it was simply because the administrator had another plan for those dollars. Because he wanted there's somebody that he wanted hired, and he's going to need some money from this budget and this budget
and move it over to be able to get there.
To justify. So, it's back to who is in charge.
But a lot of that is not just them hiring another teacher. That's another administrator somehow that they squeezed in.
Of course.
And that was the last report that I read, which was years ago. The number one thing that they wanted was more administration, not more teachers, more aides. No, they wanted more. That's where the extra money was going. Is that for your buddies and friends?
Yeah.
Because that's not helping that student. What is that? What is that extra administrator doing to help the bottom line with teaching those kids?
But I will guarantee you that when that superintendent made that presentation to the board to pick up that additional administrator, the justification was because it could relieve the workload of the staff so that they wouldn't have to do that and they could spend more time focusing on the students. That's the oldest game and the reason they can get away with that is because most board members don't understand the budget. They don't know what's going on, and when he brings something like that to them and they ask 1 or 2 questions and he can answer those, they're through. Okay, I guess we really need it. And they have no real relationship with staff because they're told, look, your communication should be with me. And then I will make sure that you get the information from whatever department you have a concern about, whereby you don't have to talk to that say the ag department or the science department or something that, had been requesting more money and they've been constantly being turned down. And because you don't have a relationship with anybody on the staff at that level, You'll believe it.
Wait. I'm hearing something here. I have to make sure that I'm hearing what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Is that saying that the left hand won't know what the right hand is doing?
Exactly.
What?
And that's the name
In
of the game.
education? No way.
Well, what do we rate in education in this state, in this country rather? Yeah. We're certainly not the best in the country in education.
Oh, you mean California?
Well, we're talking about California as compared to other states in the union.
No, it's not.
No. So you have to say.
But it probably spends more money than anybody.
Pretty close. There is a couple of that spend a little more money than us, but California spends an awful lot of money. And for the results that they get.
And every year they come back.
50+% of the state of California's budget is directed to education in some manner or other, whether it be direct funding or something affiliated with education. 50+% of the budget, man, that's a lot of money.
And
yet
still
Johnny
ain't got
can't
it right.
read. So something's wrong, and you can't totally blame the teachers. Although I think that there are some folks who are in education who do not need to be there. They're there simply for, what's the old saying? When you can't do anything else, teach. You know, you go down the list and you check out what you might want to do in life, and you say, well, let's see, I guess I might as well get a degree in education and I can go to the classroom. And the benefits are pretty good now. They weren't always this good, but you can stay there for a while, 20 years or better, and when you retire, yeah, you're gonna be okay. You're going to make out okay. You're not going to be out at Proverella House. You're going to be taken care of. Wasn't always that way, and I don't have a problem with that because I think, to me, education, teachers should be paid at the max. I think they should be paid more than administrators, personally, because they're the ones that input education into anybody who's anything. There was a teacher involved. Administrator might have been there, but he wasn't directly involved with the learning of that particular student. So I think that they're underpaid, and they're a lot of times overworked. And when they pull aides out of classrooms, when I was a kid coming up, there were classrooms that had aides because they knew, the teachers knew that they had students on different levels, and they needed to have someone work with them to help bring them up to speed. Over the last 10 years, even though they changed the name from teacher aides to paraprofessionals, the district has cut a whole lot of that out. And so we got a lot of people who are really struggling in terms of classroom teachers with a wide variety of students at many different levels, and they can't get to all of them. So do you talk about this standardized testing form that everybody has to complete? It doesn't work like that for everybody.
No.
It needs to be individualized.
No.
That costs more time, but that's what they're there for, and that's why over 50% of the budget of California is going to education, because somebody has convinced the legislators that we need more money in education. Mm-hmm. And I know that they could do a whole lot more with less.
Well, education is just following the format of like any corporation.
Yeah.
You got supervisors that just walk around telling other people what to do, and administrators the same thing. They're sitting in the front office and they're saying, "Well, this needs to be done. This needs to be done," but they're not the bottom end of teaching that. The bottom line is teaching that student. But if you mean to tell me you're gonna get paid more to tell me what to do, how to teach that child, than me actually teaching that child?
Right.
But yeah, you making twice as much as I am.
And the other side of that is you're probably just fresh out of college and have never taught before. You're there because you knew somebody and you got this job through an administrator and you went up to change. You see, it's sad. The way a teacher can make big money now is they have to move from what they do the best to administration. Mm-hmm. And you may not be a good administrator, but you're a great teacher. Mm-hmm. There's got to be another formula to reward good teachers. And part of the problem is unions won't allow that, because if you don't pay, they have pay scales for if you've been there for this many time, this period of time, then you are entitled to this kind of pay, no matter how good you are as a teacher. Well, in recent years, there's been some conversation about rewarding good teachers and keeping them in the classroom, as opposed to by rewarding them, taking them out of their environment where they're best, and putting them in administration where now you got to hire somebody to do what that classroom teacher who you just elevated to administration to pay him more money, you got to hire somebody else to do their job.
Right.
So you got a lot of that kind of stuff going on. And if you don't have good leadership, you're going to, it's going to be go back to the taxpayer again, asking for more money. That's why, when we had Dr. Buchanan over at West Fresno for the short period of time that we had him, it was very interesting to see how he operated and how he was able to utilize his skill set to really help teachers do a better job of teaching. The one thing he did tell me, though, he said, man, you guys thought we had a lot of money because we were in Clovis. Mel, I'm looking at your budget. Man, we got dollars. You guys got dollars here we never saw in Clovis. Man, I should have been here years ago. He said, you guys have all kinds of money. Ours was pretty much ADA from the taxes from the property owners. But here you guys have all of these special funds. The things I could have done with this, we could have been one of those magnet schools or schools recognized over the country had I had the resources you guys here. And he also said this. He said, most of my curriculum and the things that I promoted were built for competition. And he said, just being around these kids here, your kids really are competitive and they really enjoy that. Man, I wished I had been here earlier. I just hate that I didn't know. I had no real understanding of how kids are motivated. Your kids were, just a little push, they're tremendously motivated. And it wound up being true because during that time we were going through that trauma over at West Fresno, our school district made the second best improvement in test scores than all of the 34 other school districts, all of the 34 school districts in Fresno County. And it was done because you got to have good leadership that knows how to push people and get out of them without them feeling like they've been beat up on and pushed. So I think there's a lot of room in education for some improvement, a lot of improvement, and the money is there. I don't think it's about money.
I don't either.
And I don't know how we fix this problem of the folks who are responsible for making sure that things are done properly. I'm not talking about the administration. I'm talking about the community leaders, those board members who sit on boards. How do we fix that? Because I listen to a lot of them talk about things, and it's always about some program, nothing about, to me, management or oversight of a superintendent or understanding the budget. It's all about some program that they're excited about. And they really want to see this program because it'll help kids. Yeah, that is, but I don't think that's a board member's responsibility. That's my thoughts. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
you must not think it took you too long. So let me tell you this. No, go ahead.
No, well, you said a lot. I was just, for me, the biggest problem overall when you're talking about board members, school board members, is any board, is that it's not really the knowledge that they have, because it's about the numbers that they have.
Meaning?
Well, if you have a 7 school board member, then you got to get to 4 in order to get anything done.
So, but how does that speak to the ability of board members to understand their responsibilities? Because it seems to me that, yeah, you need 4 as a majority to move things because they're politicians. You have to have a vote, and that vote, in order to be moved, it has to have, if you're a 7-member board, you got to have 4 votes supporting it.
Right.
But what does that have to do with board members understanding their roles and responsibilities?
I see that most boards, the members who are on the boards, come from either if they start out a PTA or whatever. They have been to enough meetings and have talked to enough people, which is the same people over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And either you agree with their philosophy on what's being done at that school, or you don't. And so you're gonna form alliances right off the bat, because if you come to the 5th meeting, by then, if your eyes are open, you should know what the agenda is of most board members or the majority of those members who's coming to that meeting.
Yeah, who the superintendent has in his pocket.
Right.
Who are the thinkers? Who are the people who want to shake things up?
Right. Who are the ones that everybody goes to and asks the question or tries to get that support from that? Not even as a board member. You got a lot of cases where people who pulling the strings are not a board member.
Not even on the board.
Not even sitting on the board. They're sitting there because if they got money, and in that money or they've got prestige, that filters down to that board member or members who he has under their thumb through friendship or whatever.
Okay, so I'll buy that, but that does not lead to good boardsmanship because of who you know and who you're voting on behalf of. It seems like there should be a way that the community should be able to gauge whether or not you're a good board member or not.
The community doesn't follow you that far. The nucleus of say even the city council and going to a meeting Monday, it was apparent to me that was about this redistricting. Okay, it's clear that they have their positions already, and to me, I believe that they already know. Once all the maps have come in on who supplied them and they've been vetted, it then okay, then at that point they're saying, wait a minute, I already know that I want map number 7, as opposed to I got the next map that everybody else is choosing could be number 3. Well, you already knew that
4 votes.
Yeah, so it really doesn't matter about what's the best map. It's the best map of what people or what my other people are telling me.
I understand that. That's the political end. But in terms of
that's the same as school board. Same thing. I don't care what it is.
But in order to be an effective school board member and to give our kids the best chance to succeed beyond all of the mid politics with the administration and even the teachers union even, there's got to be an understanding from those 7 or 5 that sit on that dais of what their responsibility is. It can't be that you are just there to vote for whatever the superintendent brings you. You're going to be in the same place you've always been.
No, but in a lot of cases that's what happens because for one,
most cases, not a lot, most cases,
they figure that he knows what he's talking about because otherwise he wouldn't have brought it to us.
So they don't look beyond the fact that he may have an ulterior motive for suggesting something to you that will benefit him or his position as opposed to benefiting the greater good.
Yeah, and because even if I did know what his motive was, if I can't get to 5, it doesn't matter.
That's because
the numbers win. The numbers win. The numbers win.
You're back to the same thing. If you don't understand your responsibility as a board member over the budget, then money controls everything.
Yes.
And if you don't understand the money of the board, you're not going to be able to stop a superintendent from doing something stupid if he can couch it in a language that makes sense to you. He can make it sound, a rose by any other name, it still smells the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to be able to distinguish between, you can't do it without understanding what that budget can do and what it can't do. And as a board member, you only have 2 primary responsibilities because everybody in the district doesn't work for the board. There's only one person that works for the board. And that's that superintendent.
Right.
And your other job is to make sure you understand the budget.
And a lot of times that's not say a lot, but yeah, I have to go back. A lot of times that superintendent has more power than the board does. Because for one, they
why
figure,
is that? Why?
Well, it depends on which district, but he's been there longer than any of the board members.
So longevity gives him more power because
he's been there. Yeah,
power
being there can dictate who does what, who says what. Because I've been here longer than you. I know what I'm doing. You're the new guy.
Let me tell you what
this is your first time here.
My good friend, the late James Tucker, told me, and it was funny when he said it. Not so funny, but it rings true. When we would go to the CSBA conferences all over the state, annual
I'm sorry.
conferences.
The who?
California School Board Association conferences.
Okay.
Yeah, they have
Oh,
annual conferences.
I thought it was the next level down. Isn't that California Black School Board Association?
Yeah, well, they're part of it. They're all part of it.
Yeah, they're part of it, but they're separate
we
too.
were part of that too.
Okay.
But the big ship, the California.
Oh, okay, the big guy.
Yeah, it's California School Board Association.
Okay.
When we would do workshops early on, I remember when they first got started, they would tell us in workshops that the board and the superintendent are partners in this education journey, and that they work together, and that they develop a relationship, and you're partners. And my friend Mr. Tucker raised his hand, and he said, how can somebody who works for me be my partner when I can fire him? And it was funny, but it was true. If he could get 3 more votes, yeah, it would be a new superintendent the next day sitting in that chair. So he said, people have to understand that we are the bosses and they work for us. And everybody kind of, it shook people up, and a lot of people dropped their heads. But he was right on point, because if you can remember that and you do your job in terms of learning what your job is as a board member, you're going to have an effective and strong district. No, don't say it.
Okay, I won't.
Because he was just one of 5. Because
Right.
if you want to talk about his district's test scores, he's going to say, well, if the other guys would have listened to me, our test scores would be up there. But yeah, the premise of what he said was, I agree with, that you have to have an understanding that even though you're the superintendent, you don't let that go to your head,
You still
because
have a
you're
boss.
you're getting paid. You're getting
Right.
paid well. I mean, this superintendent's making $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
At that time. So I think we need to really do some soul searching when we want to talk about who we want to put on these school boards, and what should their role be in terms of oversight, and how much information should they share back with the public.
I think the days of innocent for school boards members voting them in the office and stuff are long gone. Because
Say that again. What do you say that again? Repeat that.
that the innocent days of having innocent school or being able to get on the school board, to me, is nothing now but politics. This it's not like it used to be innocent of I want to do the best for the students. I mean, that may be the bottom line that you'd want to throw out there, yeah, but I think it's really just politics. It's about who can raise the most money, and it does cost money to run on these school boards. And so look who's on there now on Fresno Unified School District. Look on there and see the school board members. See how much money they've raised, who they're shaking hands with. Mm-hmm. That wasn't I came to 3 meetings and now I want to run for the school board. No.
Yeah, but when you look at that, there's a reason for that too.
Why? What is the reason?
The school districts handle millions of dollars, and millions of dollars come with contracts.
Yeah.
And contracts for folks who are in the business of either development or services to a school district. They're going to be looking for a friendly vote.
That's nothing new either, because
Yeah.
that has been going on the same as everything else. Prisons, everything else.
But the difference in the school district, who has been the primary contact to make all of that happen in the past?
You went to the superintendent.
Exactly. Now, board, you just said it. It's different now because board members are a little more astute now. And some of them recognize that milk contract that we give to Company AB, they ought to be helping with my campaign because I voted for that. And so every area is you're going to see more and more, and it's coming more and more now. It used to was the superintendent made those calls and he cut his own deals. And I know superintendents have done things that, have fixed up their own homes on school district money, on school district contractors and that kind of stuff, and gotten away with it because nobody was paying attention. Mm-hmm. But when people understand how much money is involved in education at the district level, I'm talking about millions of dollars. The Fresno Unified School District's budget is bigger than the city of Fresno's budgets. So, of course, there's going to be some folks that are going to be, seeing what they can do to help themselves get reelected or help this contract get over here because I got some relatives that work for that company or, that kind of stuff is going to be there. I don't see that diminishing, but I think there should be an accountability of people we put on boards to make their primary job the oversight of the superintendent and the understanding of a budget a priority before you sit on that board. You got to know what you're there for.
I think that's a hands-off, as you said, I thought you said supervising, or not the superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
I think the superintendent is hands off unless he does something crazy out of left field.
Meaning, it doesn't have to be crazy.
I think so.
No.
I think that if he's smart enough and has enough knowledge to have gotten to that point that is going to take something crazy and stupid that he didn't expect to get caught on.
Oh, you're talking about the example I made earlier about the superintendent having work done in this place and that kind of stuff?
Right, because
that's not a regular. That's an unusual.
The board's not going to get involved with him.
And they're not going to see that either. That's something that they won't see. And it'll be something that will happen based on the contract that individual received from the school district. Now, we'll go over and have coffee over here at the coffee shop, and I'll say, look, we can get you that contract. But look, man, I've been working on this house, and I need to have it remodeled, and I just, I'm looking for a good contractor that can get that done for me. You know anybody? And from that conversation comes, well, yeah, I know someone. Well, if you could refer him to him, I sure would appreciate it. Well, that sounds like an innocent conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But from that innocent conversation comes this guy getting his whole house done over again, and guess how much he paid? So, because, that was, the guy got the contract from the district,
right,
which was worth millions. So, yeah, he's going to take care. But I have to give it to the newer school board members and city council people. They recognize that, city council people were always there. But school board members recognize now that we need to be a part of this conversation when we start talking about giving out contracts. Because a lot of times in the old days, as I remember, it would be a contract would be granted and it would be on the consent agenda, meaning there's no conversation. We're going to go yay or nay. Unless some board member pulled it off and says, I want to know about this particular item right here, it's not going to be. And most good superintendents have the ability to have that kind of conversation that will keep you off, satisfy your thoughts and then move right on. But, it's interesting, and there is a lot of money in education, folks. I hope we haven't bored too many people.
Especially
about
50% plus.
Yeah.
And that number is going to grow because they're going to come back and ask you for more money again. They're not going to stop.
Yeah. I got a problem right now with a district that just passed a bond for $46 million, and they have no plan to include Southwest Fresno in the conversation of where do we go from here? Or what part can they benefit from, even though they're the ones that voted it in? So I'm really waiting to hear what's going to be next here, the first part of January. $46 million bond. And the input from Southwest Fresno residents, nearly zip.
Okay, I know we're running out of time, but what's the $46 million for?
They're going to build a new middle school. They're going to do some renovations.
And place it where?
You tell me. Yet you got a boundary problem. You got a school district that's bumped right up against another one. Matter of fact, right next door. You can throw a rock from one campus to another school district that's 5 miles away. So rather than square up the boundaries before you ask people to give you $46 million, you simply just take the easy path and say, well, while they're asleep, let's just tag this in here. But anyway, we're out of time. We maybe we will, maybe we won't continue this conversation next time.
We got to.
But I've had a good time, and I've learned some things. Thank you, Brother Cato, for sharing about the special needs.
Is my check in the mail?
It's in the mail.
Okay, that means I'll never get it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders.
But we hope you enjoyed it. We look to see you next week. We were off last week, so we're going to double up. We'll be back next week, folks. So before Thanksgiving, come back again and listen to Mel Sanders and Friends here on the Central Valley Talk. Thank you.
Bye.
Have dents or dings that need to be removed from your car? Well, look no further. Here at Say Magnifique, we offer paintless dent repair, interior repair, windshield repair, wheel repair, scratch, and automotive touch-ups. A new headlight restoration system guaranteed to never have your headlights dull again. Say Magnifique is a mobile business and will come to you. Reasonable rates guaranteed. Don't hesitate to call 559-704-7525. That's 559-704-7525. Say Magnifique, your one-stop auto body shop.